Imagine you step into a room alive with sound. A current of voices swirls in every corner, each thread of conversation weaving itself into a tapestry of laughter, stories, and gestures. There's an almost hypnotic rhythm to it all. People smiling, leaning in with raised eyebrows, nodding with rehearsed attentiveness. To many, it seems like the purest form of connection, the beating heart of what it means to be human. But on the edge of that crowded space stands someone, still, composed, and seemingly untouched by the noise. They're not hiding, not uncomfortable, just elsewhere, present, but in another dimension entirely. Their body stands in the room, but their mind is wandering galaxies apart, immersed in a stream of thought, far richer than anything spoken around them. There's no sign of disdain, no judgment in their eyes, only quiet distance, a profound detachment from the spectacle unfolding before them. What makes some people gravitate toward that distance? Why do some seem immune to the allure of social buzz, untouched by the compulsion to join the chatter? Is it shyness, arrogance, or is it something more intricate? Something that ties directly into the very fabric of how they think, how they perceive, how they exist. Perhaps intelligence itself, true, raw, introspective intelligence, breeds not isolation, but a need for solitude, not to escape people, but to preserve clarity. This is where Arthur Schopenhauer, the sharp-edged philosopher who never bowed to the comfort of convention, enters the conversation. He didn't just observe human behavior, he dissected it. He believed that the brightest minds, the most lucid thinkers, are rarely found at the center of the crowd. Instead, they dwell on the fringes, not because they are incapable of connection, but because their inner world offers something far richer than the surface-level pleasures of social rituals. According to Schopenhauer, the average person turns outward because there's not enough within. Their silence feels like emptiness, so they run from it, filling the void with laughter, company, distraction. But for the truly intelligent, the silence is not a void. It's a sanctuary. Their minds are lush, overgrown with ideas, questions, theories, dreams. Why seek outside stimulation when your own thoughts are a symphony? But this flips everything we're taught. From our earliest memories, we're told that friends make life full, that socializing is good for the soul. Birthdays, lunch tables, school dances, office parties. It's all designed to reinforce the idea that being connected means being happy. But what if that's not entirely true? What if the people who choose silence aren't missing something, but have actually found something that others haven't? Schopenhauer believed they had. He saw the constant need for interaction as a symptom, not a strength, a signal that many people cannot bear the company of their own thoughts. He described these people as empty vessels, needing to be filled from the outside. Conversations, entertainment, validation, those were the fillers. But the intelligent person? Their mind is already full. For them, solitude isn't silence, it's dialogue, just a quieter, deeper one. They don't avoid people out of disdain. They simply recognize that most interactions offer little substance. It's not that they believe they're better than others. They just operate on a different frequency, one that doesn't find nourishment in the superficial. And maybe you've felt it too. That sensation after a long day of socializing, not energized, but drained. As if every smile, every polite chuckle, every small talk exchange tugged a little bit of your energy away. You're not antisocial. You just value your time, your thoughts, your space. There's nothing inherently noble about constant company. In fact, according to Schopenhauer, it can be a barrier to growth, a smokescreen, a pleasant fog that obscures the path inward. Because when you're constantly surrounded by others, it's easy to forget to look within. He wasn't blind to the evolutionary roots of our social nature. Humans survived because we worked together, leaned on each other. but he challenged the leap from survival to fulfillment. Just because we needed social bonds to live doesn't mean they're the key to living well. In fact, he argued that true elevation, the kind that leads to wisdom, to creativity, to real understanding, often begins in isolation. When you're alone, you stop performing, you stop adjusting, you stop playing roles, you simply are. And here's the truth. Intelligent people often come to, sometimes painfully, sometimes gradually. Most conversations aren't really about connecting, they're about conforming. There's an unspoken script that governs social life. What to say, what not to say, how to respond, how to fit in. For someone who values truth more than comfort, that script becomes unbearable. The constant masking, the subtle performances, the avoidance of depth. It feels like pretending, and pretending is exhausting. That's why the brilliant minds of history often walked alone. Kafka, who buried his agony in fiction. Dickinson, whose poetry flowered behind closed doors. Tesla, who fell in love with ideas more than people. They weren't incapable of social life. They just chose a different reward. The company of their own thoughts. The pursuit of a purpose that made the noise of parties and pleasantries seem far too distant to chase. And yet, this isn't about renouncing humanity or becoming a hermit. Schopenhauer didn't say, never connect. He said, connect with meaning. Choose your company like you choose your books, carefully, purposefully. He believed relationships could be beautiful, but only when they weren't transactional, not born out of convenience, not built on mutual need, but on mutual understanding. Most friendships, he said, dissolve because they were circumstantial. Take away the shared job, the shared classroom, the shared city, and what remains? If the bond was real, it endures. If not, it evaporates. To the intelligent person, this pattern is obvious, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's why they become selective, even guarded. They don't collect people. They cherish a few. They'd rather be alone than half connected. Because nothing feels lonelier than a room full of people who don't truly understand you. But even more than that, Schopenhauer saw something darker at the heart of social life. Competition. Not open conflict, but a subtle race. Status, image, validation. In many conversations, people aren't listening. They're waiting to speak. They're not exchanging ideas. They're defending egos. This, to someone seeking truth, is unbearable. Why trade the vastness of thought for the smallness of social games? So, if they retreat, it's not from people. It's from the illusions people live in. The need to be liked, the craving for applause, the fear of silence. Intelligent individuals don't seek applause. They seek clarity. And they know clarity rarely visits crowded rooms. But this isn't meant to glorify detachment for its own sake. Schopenhauer wasn't advocating bitterness or contempt. He warned against that too. Intellectual superiority that curdles into disdain is no better than mindless socializing. True wisdom, he believed, was found in the balance. Engage when it's real, withdraw when it's empty. The key isn't isolation. The key is independence. A mind that's whole on its own. A soul that isn't begging for company, but welcomes it when it brings light. That's the distinction he made so clearly between solitude and loneliness. Loneliness is hunger. Solitude is fullness. When your mind is rich enough, silence doesn't echo. It sings. And maybe this is the quiet truth intelligent people know, even if they never speak it. The world outside is loud, but the world inside can be louder and more beautiful. They don't need constant input because their inner life is already a novel, a theory, a painting. Solitude to them is not a hole to be filled. It's a space to be explored. That's why they protect it. Why they don't fear long nights alone. why they don't crave invitations or busy schedules. They don't fear missing out, because they're not missing anything. Their richest moments often come in stillness, in a line of a book that changes everything, in a breakthrough thought at midnight, in the silent thrill of understanding something deeply. They value those moments not for how they can share them later, but for what they offer in the moment: truth, insight, perspective. For them, life is not a stage where applause is the goal. It's a journey inward, where the destination is self-mastery, and the road, more often than not, is walked alone. This is not loneliness. This is liberation. Schopenhauer's most piercing insight was this: most people run from solitude because they fear it, because being alone strips away distraction, and what's left is the raw self. No masks, no noise, just you. For many, that's unbearable. But for the intelligent, that's where life begins. The moment the external chatter fades, the internal symphony rises. That's when ideas come. That's when clarity arrives. That's when the mind, unshackled by social scripts, begins to soar. And once you've experienced that, once you've felt the depth of your own mind without interference, there's no going back. Shallow conversations start to feel like sandpaper. Forced laughter grates. Mindless interaction becomes a weight, not because people are bad, but because what they offer is so often filtered, curated, diluted. And you've tasted something purer, something more honest. It's not about rejecting people. It's about refusing to dilute your own essence just to fit into a mold that was never made for you. So intelligent people make a quiet choice. They seek out solitude, not as an escape, but as a return. They understand that depth often requires distance. That true connection, when it happens, is rare and sacred, not something to be manufactured in loud rooms or through endless scrolling. They choose quality over quantity, silence over noise, stillness over motion. And in that stillness, something extraordinary happens. They begin to see the world as it is, not as it's presented. They see through the games of status, the costumes of social climbing, the illusion that being well-liked means being well-lived. They understand that approval is fleeting, but wisdom endures. That applause fades, but inner peace stays. So they invest in what matters, not in popularity, but in purpose, not in constant conversation, but in consistent self-reflection. They're not trying to impress. They're trying to understand the world, to understand themselves. And in doing so, they often become what society doesn't expect: quiet giants, powerful, not because they shout the loudest, but because their silence is rooted in something unshakable. You'll find them not in the spotlight, but in the shadows of thought. Not at the center of the party, but at the edge of the universe, looking inward and outward all at once. They are the watchers, the thinkers, the creators of ideas that outlive noise. While others are busy performing, they are busy observing. And through that observation, they uncover patterns, truths, insights that most miss. But even so, they are not without feeling, not without longing. Intelligence does not eliminate the need for connection. It refines it, sharpens it, transforms it from craving into a rare and sacred hunger. When intelligent people find those they can connect with, those rare souls who see the world through a similar lens, the bond formed is not just friendship, it's resonance. It's like two tuning forks vibrating at the same frequency, effortless, electric, deep. They may only find a few such people in a lifetime, but for them, that is enough. Because those connections are not made of convenience. They're forged in truth, in shared silence, in mutual understanding. And that's why intelligent people protect their time, why they guard their solitude, because they know what it's worth. It's not that they believe they're better. It's that they've experienced what life feels like when you're fully in tune with your own mind, and they're not willing to trade that for 1,000 surface-level interactions. Schopenhauer believed that solitude was the soil in which genius grows, that creativity doesn't bloom in crowds, but in quiet corners. And history proves him right. The greatest art, the boldest ideas, the most transformative philosophies, they rarely came from noisy dinner tables. They came from long walks alone, from journals filled in silence, from a mind undisturbed by the need to impress. And yet, there's a paradox, because while solitude empowers intelligent minds, it also sets them apart. It creates a gap between them and the rest of the world, a gap filled not with arrogance, but with loneliness of a unique kind, the loneliness of being misunderstood, of speaking a language few are fluent in, of seeing things others don't notice, and having no one to share that vision with. This loneliness doesn't come from being alone, it comes from not being seen. And that's the silent burden of intelligence, not just the need to retreat, but the quiet ache of knowing that retreat may become permanent, that the deeper you go, the fewer people will follow. But still, they go. Because the alternative, living shallow, living distracted, is worse. And so, intelligent people often live in two worlds: the outer world of occasional interaction, necessary connection, polite engagement, and the inner world where their true self resides, vivid, rich, infinite. They touch the outside when needed, but they return to the inside for truth, for sustenance, for freedom, because at the end of the day, they understand what Schopenhauer said so clearly: a man can be himself only so long as he is alone. In solitude, there's no need to filter, no need to edit, no need to impress. There's just thought, reflection, being. And for those who live not on the surface but in the depths, that's not just enough, it's everything. So they walk through life quietly, not because they lack voice, but because their voice is tuned to a deeper frequency, one that speaks not through words, but through understanding, through presence, through creation. They don't light up every room they enter, but they light up every thought they follow. They don't chase crowds, they chase meaning. And in a world addicted to distraction, that makes them both rare and necessary. And maybe, just maybe, they're not the ones missing out. Maybe they've found something we've all been too busy to see: that the richest life is not always the loudest, not always the most connected, but the most conscious, the most reflective, the most free. That's why intelligent people don't care about social life the way others do, because they've discovered a life beneath the surface, a world within a world. And once you've lived there, once you've felt the fullness of your own mind, the rest just feels like noise. And so, the truth settles like quiet dust in a still room. Intelligent people don't reject the world out of bitterness, nor do they avoid others because of pride. They simply listen more closely to a voice the world often drowns out: their own. In that voice, they find direction. In their thoughts, they find depth. In their solitude, they find peace. Not the absence of people, but the presence of clarity. They know that meaning is not measured by how many people surround you, but by how deeply you understand yourself. And while the world rushes forward, craving attention, approval, noise, they walk slower, quieter, more inward. Not because they are lost, but because they've already found something most never will. And in the silence of their solitude, they are more alive than ever.